Bonnie Dubeck McNunn's late husband, Private Donald Dubeck, was a forward scout with the 106th Infantry Division in Europe during World War II. They arrived in France 1 December 1944 and 15 days later had formed a thin line in Belgium, where they were overrun by an overwhelming German advance, precipitating the Battle of the Bulge. After putting up stiff resistance, Private Dubeck and the survivors of his unit were taken prisoner and sent to Germany, where he spent several months in 2 Stalag prison camps before being marched away from the oncoming Russians toward the American lines, where he was liberated by U.S. Army troops. During their marriage, he spoke very little of the battle and his time in captivity. After Donald passed away in 1997, Bonnie was determined to learn as much as she could about these events. Bonnie, would you come up here and just share with us a little bit about how you got that done?
Good evening, everyone. It's nice to see so many people here. I went on a very exciting journey about 25 years ago when my son became a father. And I realized that his children would know nothing about their grandfather, Donald Dubeck, if I didn't find out something. So my first step was to contact military records in Philadelphia to be told the records were burned. And then I started on a long, amazing trip and found about 9 of the still living men of his unit. And those men were so great in sharing their stories. But what they shared was not so much the battle side as what their day-to-day experiences were. Sleeping in a field, in a tent, and feeling a cow's breath on the tent side. Cooking soup in their helmet, but having the snow from the tree fall and put out their fire. And just all sorts of stories like this. And my current husband and I, we actually traveled to Iowa to meet with one of these men who gave me a huge box of mementos and was very gracious in sharing his story along with the others. And then the World War II Museum opened in New Orleans. And again, I had not planned to write a book. And so I had my notes in spiral form, and they were looking for letters and information about World War II people. I sent that information to the museum and didn't think any more about it until Sir Francis, I forgot his name, a great writer from England who writes about the wars, was writing a book called Armageddon, and I found out that my material was quoted in his book, and Donald's name was mentioned along with another Ray Ahrens. So that was kind of exciting because I wasn't writing a book. But then the Cub magazine asked that I do a condensed version, and they published it in their magazine. And the only thing I had never been able to find out, because my husband was a forward scout, he didn't interact much with the others, was how he was actually captured. And so they published this shortened version of the story, and I get a call from a man in Colorado. He was not in my husband's unit, he was in another unit. They were hiding in a house that had very thick walls and should have protected them, except a large bullet, 8mm, I think it is, hit the side of the house. It injured my husband slightly, it injured him, and they were captured and immediately separated. But this man said there could only be one guy that went by the name of Doobie. And the last time he saw him was when they were in the food line at the camp where they went to be processed out of the military. So, excuse me, great adventure. And recently with the pandemic, I had nothing better to do, so I put it in book form. And it's now available on Amazon, and it was fun to do.